The house was full before sunset. Cars lined the street. Lights glowed from every window, and voices blended into one steady sound of happiness. Inside, the family moved with purpose, carrying dishes, fixing decorations, laughing at small mistakes. It was an anniversary celebration, carefully planned and proudly hosted. Everyone wanted it to be perfect. Ayan arrived early, as he always did. He helped without being asked, lifting chairs, adjusting the tablecloth, checking the lights. One noticed how quiet he was. They never did. He preferred it that way. Silence had become a habit, shaped by years of standing slightly behind everyone else. Samir's older brother stood at the center of the room, confident and relaxed. He greeted guests with ease, his smile wide, his voice warm. People admired him openly. Successful, responsible. A man who had built something strong from nothing. Ayan watched him closely, trying to feel pride. Instead, there was a faint tension he couldn't explain. The music started softly. Glasses clinked, conversations overlapped. Children ran through the hall until someone told them to slow down. The night felt alive, full of energy and memory. Family photos on the wall showed milestones, birthdays, shared holidays. In many of them, Ayan stood beside Samir, younger, hopeful, believing in the future they once talked about. He drifted toward the edge of the room, holding a drink he barely touched. He listened more than he spoke. Someone joked about the past. Someone praised Samir's hard work. Someone said the family was lucky. Each word landed heavier than the last, though no one noticed. Then he saw her. She stood near the doorway, unsure if she belonged. She was well-dressed but nervous, her posture stiff. Ayan didn't recognize her as family or a close friend. She scanned the room like someone searching for the right moment to leave. When her eyes met Ayan's, she looked away, then back again, as if deciding something important. A few minutes passed. She approached him slowly, careful not to draw attention. Her voice was low when she spoke his name, Ayan. He nodded. Surprised, she swallowed before continuing. "Can we talk? Somewhere quiet." It wasn't a request, it was a plea. Something in her tone made him uneasy. He followed her down the hallway, away from the music, away from the laughter. The noise faded with each step until only distant voices remained. They stopped near a closed door. The light was dimmer there. She took a deep breath, her hands shaking slightly. "I don't know how to say this," she began. "And I don't know if you'll hate me for it, Kate, but I can't keep quiet anymore." Ayan felt his chest tighten. He said nothing, waiting. She spoke carefully, as if choosing each word could change what they meant. She asked if he remembered. The business plan he had worked on years ago. The one he believed had failed. The one that cost him time, money, and confidence. He remembered. Of course he did. That failure had followed him for years. He nodded once. She looked down. It didn't fail. The words didn't make sense at first. Ayan frowned slightly, unsure if he heard correctly. "What do you mean?" he asked. She hesitated, then met his eyes. It worked. It made money. Lot of it. The hallway felt smaller. The air felt heavier. His mind raced, trying to catch up. "That's impossible," he said quietly. "I lost everything." She shook her head. "You lost it. But someone else gained it." Silence stretched between them. The sounds of celebration felt distant now, unreal. She continued, her voice steady but filled with regret. She told him how the idea had been shared, how documents were used, how connections were made behind closed doors, how his plan had been reshaped and presented as someone else's vision. She said, "Samir's name." The name landed like a blow. Ayan felt a strange calm at first, the kind that comes before pain fully arrives. He thought she must be mistaken. There had to be an explanation, a misunderstanding. But as she spoke, details filled the gaps in his memory. Moments that once felt confusing now made sense. Conversations that ended too quickly. promises that faded without reason. She explained how she had been part of the process indirectly, how she hadn't known the full story at first, how she believed Samir when he said it was necessary, that it was for the family, that Ion would never know, and that it was better that way. I believed him, she said, her voice breaking. I told myself it was justified. Ion leaned against the wall, the weight of her words pressing down on him. His thoughts scattered, then slowly aligned into a picture he didn't want to see but couldn't ignore. The years of struggle, the self-doubt, the quiet embarrassment, the belief that he simply wasn't good enough. All of it had grown from a lie. She finished speaking and waited, afraid of his reaction. I'm telling you now because I can't carry this anymore, she said. You deserved the truth. Ion nodded slowly. He didn't trust his voice. His hands felt cold. His heart beat hard, steady, almost angry. She stepped back, giving him space. Sorry, she said again, for my part in it. For staying silent. Then she left him there, standing alone in the hallway. The celebration continued just beyond the door. Laughter rose and fell. Someone clapped. Someone called Samir's name again. Ion stayed where he was, staring at the floor, breathing. Slowly, his mind replayed everything. The past rewrote itself in sharp detail. Every sacrifice, every moment he blamed himself. Every time Samir offered support that now felt false, he returned to the living room after a while. No one noticed the change. In him, they were too busy celebrating. Samir raised a glass and began a speech. He spoke about love, commitment, and family. He thanked everyone for believing in him. His words were smooth, practiced, confident. Ayan watched him from across the room. The man he grew up with, the brother he trusted, the person who had quietly destroyed something precious and built a life on top of it. Anger rose slowly, controlled, sharp. Not loud, not wild. Focused. Ayan realized something in that moment. The night had already changed. The celebration meant nothing now. The secret had turned everything upside down. He smiled faintly when someone looked his way. He played his role, but inside a line had been crossed. The desire for revenge did not explode. It settled. It waited. And as the party went on, as music filled the house and happiness painted every face, Ion stood among them with a new understanding. This was only the beginning. Sleep stopped coming easily after that night. Ion lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying memories he could no longer trust. Every past moment now carried a shadow. His thoughts moved fast, sharp, refusing to rest. The secret had settled deep inside him, changing how he saw everything. Days passed, but the feeling didn't fade. It grew stronger. Ion went to work, spoke when needed, smiled when expected, yet his mind stayed fixed on one truth. Samir had taken something that was never his, not by force, by choice, by silence, by believing he deserved it more. Ion began to watch his brother closely, not with anger at first, but with attention. He noticed how Samir spoke to people, how carefully he chose his words. He saw the confidence, the control, the way others leaned in when Samir talked. It made sense now. That confidence had been built on a stolen foundation. Samir, unaware, continued his life as usual. He believed the past was buried. In his mind, the decision had been necessary. The idea had been risky, he told himself. Ion wasn't ready. The family needed security. Once success arrived, doubt faded. He convinced himself the result proved he was right. Ion heard those justifications in his head, as if Samir were standing beside him, explaining calmly. The thought made his jaw tighten. Justification didn't erase betrayal. At night, Ion wrote things down. Names, dates, conversations he remembered. He searched old emails, files, notes. Slowly, a clear path formed. The truth was no longer just a story told in a hallway. It had shape, proof. Wait, With each discovery, anger flared, then cooled into something more controlled. He didn't want to shout. He didn't want chaos. He wanted balance. Still, doubt followed him. He asked himself hard questions. What would revenge give him? Would exposing Samir return the lost years? Would it heal the damage inside him? Would it only spread the pain further, tearing apart a family already fragile beneath the surface? Some nights he imagined confronting Samir directly. It's just the two of them. He pictured Samir denying it at first, then growing quiet, then angry. Other nights he imagined something colder, a public reveal, the applause stopping. The admiration fading, the truth landing where it could not be ignored. The idea brought a sense of power, and with it, fear. Ion noticed changes in himself. He grew quieter, sharper. Small things annoyed him. He pulled away from people who cared. Revenge demanded space. Lee demanded focus. And it demanded pieces of him he wasn't sure he wanted to give. One evening, he sat alone in a cafe, watching people pass by outside. Everyone seemed busy with their own lives, their own struggles. None of them knew the storm inside him. He realized how easy it would be to let revenge define him completely. That thought scared him. He remembered who he used to be, someone who believed effort mattered, someone who trusted family, someone who dreamed without fear of being replaced. He wondered if that person could survive what he was planning. Meanwhile, Samir felt something shift, though he didn't know why. Conversations with Ion felt shorter. Eye contact lingered too long. There was a distance he couldn't explain. Guilt stirred quietly, unwelcome. He pushed it down, reminding himself that the past was done. That opening it would help no one. Yet unease followed him. Success no longer felt as solid. Compliments sounded thinner. He began to sense that something he had buried was pressing upward. Ion continued preparing. He spoke to no one about it. Silence became his shield. Each step he took felt heavier than the last. Revenge was no longer a simple idea. It was a path with consequences clearly marked. He stood at the edge of that path, knowing once he stepped forward, there would be no turning back. And still, he hadn't decided which way to go. The invitation arrived a week later. Another family gathering, another moment meant to celebrate success. This time it was larger, more public, filled with people who admired Samir and wanted to be close to what he had built. Ion read the message once and set his phone down. He knew this was not a coincidence. Moments like this didn't come often. When they did, they demanded decisions. The day of the event moved quickly. Ion dressed with care, not to impress, but to feel steady. He carried himself calmly, though his thoughts ran fast. Every step toward the venue felt like a step toward a line he could not uncross. The hall was bright and full. Voices echoed off the walls. Screens showed images of growth and success. Samir stood near the front, relaxed, confident, surrounded by praise. He looked like someone who believed his story completely. Ion took a seat among the crowd. In his pocket rested everything he needed. Proof, clear and simple, enough to break the image everyone trusted. His heart beat hard, but his face remained still. Samir began to speak. He talked about hard work, about risk, about believing in yourself. People listened closely. Some nodded, some smiled. Ion listened too, hearing the empty spaces between the words. He saw how carefully Samir avoided the past, how smoothly he shaped the story. As the speech continued, Ion felt the moment approach. This was it. If he stood now, everything would change. He imagined the outcome clearly. Shock, silence, faces turning. Samir frozen, exposed. The truth taking control. His fingers tightened around the proof. The power of it was real. Heavy, tempting, then something unexpected happened. Samir looked toward him. For a brief second, their eyes met. There was no smile this time, just recognition. Samir saw something in Ion's expression that unsettled him. The speech faltered slightly. A pause, a breath taken too late. In that moment, Ion understood something important. Samir already knew. Not the details, but the danger. The past had caught up. The secret was no longer buried. Fear had found its way through the cracks. Ion stood. The room grew quiet, not with shock, but with curiosity. People turned, expecting praise or support. Samir stiffened, waiting for impact. Ion walked forward slowly. Each step felt deliberate, controlled. He did not rush, he did not look angry. His calm made the silence heavier. When he spoke, his voice was clear. He didn't name the betrayal, he didn't expose the details. Instead, he spoke about truth, about how success built on silence never rests easy, about how taking credit for something that isn't yours leaves a mark no achievement can erase. His words were careful but sharp enough to be understood. The room listened closely. Some shifted in their seats. Some glanced at Samir. The meaning settled without being forced. Samir's face changed. His confidence slipped. He understood now that Ion held the truth and had chosen not to use it like a weapon. That choice cut deeper than any public reveal. Ion finished and stepped back. The room remained quiet for a few seconds longer. Then applause started, unsure, but respectful. The event continued, though something had shifted. The shine had dulled. Later, away from the crowd, Samir found him. They stood alone, the noise distant. Samir looked tired, older than before. "You could have destroyed me," he said quietly. Ion met his gaze. "You did that yourself." There was no shouting, no anger left to spend, just honesty. Samir tried to explain fear, pressure, belief that he was protecting the family. The words sounded weak even to him. He stopped, knowing they were not enough. Ion listened, then spoke once more. "You took something from me, not just an idea. You took my trust." "That's harder to replace." Samir nodded. There was nothing else to say in the days that followed. Changes came quietly. Questions were asked. Deals slowed. The truth surfaced piece by piece, not through revenge, but through consequence. Samir faced the weight of his choices without public drama, without applause. Ion watched from a distance. He felt no joy in it. But he felt free. The desire for revenge faded, replaced by something steadier. Closure. He had faced the moment and chosen who he wanted to be. Not someone shaped by anger, but someone who refused to let betrayal define his future. He understood now that revenge promised relief but demanded too much in return. Walking away had cost him less. As life moved forward, Ion focused on rebuilding his own path, this time with open eyes. The secret that once burned inside him no longer controlled him. The celebration that changed his life had led him here, not to destruction, but to clarity. And that choice, he knew, would shape everything that came next.